And we're live with the VUCA Fit podcast. We get to talk about things that fall into the realm of being volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. But before we do that, I want to encourage you to go to VUCAFit.com. That's VUCA Fit.com. We got a bunch of free resources, most of which are done by my good friend and co-host, Jose Bolaños. Biohacking. Let's go. We want to talk about it.
We're going to talk about the biohacking perspective.
What does that freaking mean? If somebody doesn't know, what does that mean?
So let's
biohacking.
look.
What's your understanding?
What does hacking mean? I ask in groups, what does hacking mean? Is it shortcuts? Is hacking is a shortcut?
That's the way I think of it. It's like, if you're a true hacker, going back to like computer hackers, it's like, hey, they're trying to find an exploit or something and take control of something. It's really what hacking has been. But then what I've been noticing is it's also done for the sake of typically something, and a lot of times that's a shortcut. But what's your perspective? You got excited when I said something there?
Which is to take control of something. It's a way to hijack a system, take control of a system, and start influencing a system. So, but we can look it up. Do you have the ability to look it up as we're here? You usually do have the ability. Hacking. What is the meaning of hacking?
So the word hacking, for those lovely people, there's so many different types, but let's go to, as a matter of fact, what is hacking? And IBM is the first ones that come up way before technology hacking. This is funny. You got security hackers, you got so many different hackers, but let's look at the word hacking meaning and to gain unauthorized access to data in a system or computer.
All right.
I don't like that. It's narrow.
Unauthorized access.
We gotta go deep.
Okay, let's work on that. So hacking is taking control, tapping into a system, and then influencing and using that system. So the biohacking, this perspective was offered to me in a breathwork course, in a breath mastery course. So the biohacking perspective is basically you have a system. But you are that system. You are the system. Mm-hmm. Now, humans are not just one. We're one system, actually, but we divide it in multiple systems. So we have the nervous system. We have the digestive system. We have the cardiovascular system. We have the skeletal system. We divide everything, but in reality, all these things are connected. It's actually one human system. Your human system. So the biohacking perspective, and then we'll talk how what VUCA Fit has to do with it, because the VUCA Fit methodology is a biohacking methodology, basically what it is. So you have a system, which is to say, you have to own the system, right? But the biohacking perspective is very simple. It's you have an input, you have a system, and you have an output. And that output can be multiple things. The input, so for example, we take weight as an example. I have a weight, a scale in my closet, and every day I weigh myself. When I weigh, what a formula in that process, I'm looking at the output. So 168 pounds is the output. With me so far?
Nobody likes a bragger, dude. 168 pounds?
168 pounds. I'm about 5 pounds overweight.
Freaking.
I can be at 163.
Keep going, Mr. Ripped. What's your body fat? What's your body fat percentage on that?
I don't know. I haven't checked. That would be another output. Yeah. So if you do an imbalance, an in-body, you get the output. That's the output of the system. So biohacking sounds mystical, it sounds modern, it sounds cool, it sounds sophisticated, but it's very simple. It's, you look at the output, and then if you want to change the output, where do you think you need to start making changes?
With the system. The system. Where? In the inputs.
In the inputs.
The inputs, and then the system's going to do what it's going to do and then have an output.
So you start.
Don't mess with the system.
So basically, it's minimizing the negative inputs. Biohacking perspective to optimize the output. You want to optimize the performance. Whatever the output is, the output can be weight, it can be health, it can be state, and that's what we're going to get to. That your state is also an output. So bear with me here. We're still working with the weight. So the weight, you go back and you start hacking the system by changing the input. You lower my sugar. For me, it's simple. If I want to lose weight, just cut all sugar from my, like all dessert, all processed sugar. I just reduce that and I start dropping weight because I work out enough. The sugar is where I'm getting too much energy, too much surplus of calories that I don't need, but I'm really addicted to sugar. So that's where my weight starts going. So if I want to lose weight, if I look at the output and I say, I don't like the output, or the output's going up, the weight's going up, I know that I just have to stop sugar for the next 2-3 weeks and I'll come right back down. But that feedback loop is very slow between, when we talk about weight, that's like in 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, a month. So it's a very slow biohacking process. Make sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense.
So we have all this technology now that gives us all these outputs. You have your watch giving you output. You have the InBody. Now you can take saliva swabs and send them to some place and they analyze it. They tell you what you can tolerate and not tolerate. And that's basically biohacking.
I just did it. I recently just did that, man. I did it with Viome.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, actually, how many apps I have on my phone. So, like on my home screen, I have 4 different apps related to what we're talking about here, which would be kind of biohacking. I've got my Streaks app, which keeps up my streaks of physical and mental, like all my practices. My MyFitnessPal that I'm using to track my nutrition. My Whoop band that I never take off. That monitors it monitors everything, but I use it to monitor my sleep. And then my Apple Watch, which I actually use mostly to monitor my activity. So it's a little bit.
Well, like this.
Look at this. It's insane, man. It's insane.
Yeah, and you need one of those Aura rings.
I tried it. I didn't like it. But my point is, there's a lot of tools to help you make. Yeah, I'm totally hacked. I'm jacked in. It's embarrassing.
I'm limited.
It's for the sake of trying to live my longest and most healthy life.
Yeah.
And also today, like to dial in today.
We can biohack for performance. We can biohack for longevity. We can biohack for fitness and vanity. But that's all it is. All it is understanding and reducing the negative inputs, increasing the positive inputs into the system, whether it's nervous system, digestive system, whatever system, and then reaping on the output. That's basically biohacking. Drinking a cup of coffee is biohacking. It's all biohacking.
Yeah, I mean, you're trying to. You know what it sounds a lot like, which is funny, like the methodologies that people might use to advance their goals. It's a lot like marketing. It's a lot like lean startup theory for businesses. It's like, going back to when I used to mentor startups in a previous life, I'd be like, do more of what works, less of what doesn't. Boom, 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 boom. Through this 6-month process to have an outcome, and the outcome was to have their minimal viable product ready to show to investors at demo day. And it was very similar. It's like, go for more noise when you find, go for more signal. When you find more noise, go back to the signal. So very similar. I love it.
Yeah.
You always have such a great way of making sense of stuff and simplifying it, man.
That's my talent. That's my freaking.
That's what you do. It's the only time. It's the only thing you show up for. It's good. I love it. Thank you.
Somebody told me. Somebody in the VUCA Fit Dojo Spanish cohort. We're basically at month 5 now. And one of the girls said, like, I'm really glad I'm here. I'm really happy to be here. Because I've seen all these things all over the place, and I've tried some of them, and I do things, but I don't know why I'm doing them. And you've just been able to really make sense of everything and simplify it in a way that makes sense. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Even philosophical things. Like I was talking about VUCA, but I was talking about VUCA from a Stoic philosophy. I was talking about VUCA from a Buddhist philosophy, from a Christian philosophy. It's like, hey, they all, the Buddhists say dukkha, the Stoics say adversity, and the Christians say trials and tribulations, and they're all necessary to grow.
Yeah.
So now we go back to the VUCA Fit method, to being VUCA Fit. It is a biohacking perspective that we're bringing to people. It is a method to biohack on multiple levels. But here's the fascinating part, that the 3 instruments, attention, breath, and body, are actually inputs that we can play with that impact the system and actually produce a certain state. Over time, a certain trait. Over time, I can change the trait. I can change my weight. But immediately, breathing differently, a different breathing in will come and produce a certain state, like the quickest.
Boom.
These are biohacking tools that we have for our state. Breathing differently. So every breathing pattern produces a state. Every attending pattern, everything that how I attend to things, like how I pay attention, produces a state. Energy follows attention. And every body posture, every embodiment, every way that I embody myself produces a state also. Like if I smile, if I tell you smile, give me a fake smile. If you're listening right now, give us a fake smile. That's an input. That's an input into the system. And it changes your state.
Yeah, I feel like a fraud now. With my fake smile, I feel like a total fraud. I feel like I'm just being disingenuous, Jose.
No, you got to fake it until, you can actually, but smiling is a hack for dealing with adversity. Did I ever tell you about that big wave surfer? I think I did tell you one time that the big wave surfer smiled in a difficult situation. Like if you smile, your sympathetic tone, your fight flight will calm down, and you'll relax, and you'll be in a better position for survival because you'll be in a more state. But anyways, the biohacking perspective is that we bring is breathing, attention, and body are inputs that if we learn how they function, if we learn the underlying principles that govern breath, body, and attention, we can actually optimize the system and produce better optimal states. And with time and practice and repetition, we can actually produce optimal that are going to help us be better able to fulfill on our commitments and what's important to us. Yeah.
Love it.
Isn't that fascinating?
It really is. It really is. And when you start, this is something you beat into my heads, but the listeners probably haven't really grasped it. But I think that when we talk about the fact that we are the system, we are the system. Our body is super complex. There's so many things we don't know about how the brain works and all sorts of things. It's a mystery. It's actually really, really cool. Because if you were an experimenter when you were a kid, which I was always like taking things apart and examining how they worked and trying to put them back together and all these things, i.e. tinkering. you realize that you've got this system that you can tinker with, that it's your system. You're stuck with it. Whether you like it or not, it's your system. This is the ones, hey, meat bag, this is the one system you got. So knowing that you're always with your system, you are your system, and you have inputs. Yep. And you have inputs that some of which you can control, some of which you cannot control. And knowing that if you control some of those in a deliberate manner with, in some cases there's research, in some cases there's science, in some cases there's just faith. You just got to believe it, right? That's what a lot of spirituality is. Faith.
There's a placebo effect.
Absolutely.
There's placebo.
But knowing that we can mess with these things, like they have dials. It's like, oh, okay, I can. If I'm feeling empty, and the name of this podcast used to be The Hole in the Soul, right? If I'm feeling empty and I'm trying to stack it, let's say with stuff like material goods, electronics, whatever it is, right? It's nice to know that system that I'm trying to fill with purchases, consumerism, or whatever, that I'm in control of it. There's dials, there's switches, there's things that can be changed. I just got to want to change them. You just have to have the awareness to want to change them. And the default setting for a lot of humanity is just go through life a little bit more reactive, not as proactive, I guess, right? With whatever life's going to offer you. Yeah. And I think it's encouraging for people that are doers and achievers. And that's probably why you see a lot of biohackers as people who are achievers, driven individuals, people that, everybody that I know that's messing with their stuff is not a lazy ass sitting on the couch.
Yes. And I would say there has to be a middle way, because I also have biohacking friends that are overly excessive, like the biohacking perspective, that the wanting to get it right, the wanting to optimize to the fullest extent is causing them so much suffering also.
Right. Yeah, like, it can be too much.
Well, you gotta fucking relax, man. Like,
yeah, enjoy the ride.
System a little. Like, it's okay, Like, should it be like, relax a little? Like, how is this serving you? So you got to be really aware, though. I'm not pushing anybody to any extremes. There's got to be a middle path, a middle ground where, where it's not so obsessive.
Yeah.
Because I know people that are obsessive, and I know people that they're not doing anything to be better, to
Don't
feel
care.
good, in the end, I think you need to be able to feel good. So, yeah. And I think the VUCA Fit methodology is a biohacking method that we can pick and choose. It's not something that you have to implement. Like I told somebody today that's learning, this methodology, I told them, look, you're going to learn the principles, you're going to learn the tools, you're going to have a toolbox, and then you're going to get to apply it at however you want to apply it. It's like you're going to get to choose what practices, what instruments, but now here you have all this toolbox. Go play around with the system. Go see how this impacts. Go see how this changes and how what happens. I think I mentioned last time the roofers that we're working with, and that one of them understood this. He got it. He was like, I get it. I just don't know if I want to, now I got to choose if I want to be this person that actually applies all this in my life. And for the time being, just choosing not to. That's a choice. Yeah. That's a valid choice too. Like, I'm just going to bulldoze my way through this, see how far I get before the system breaks down.
I think a lot of people would do that. And as a matter of fact, I'd say that's, again, probably the default state for most people is like, all right, because if you don't know this stuff's available, or you think it's really weird, or you say, hey, that's not for me, or maybe like just the term biohacking almost sounds like a terrorist term. Bio brings up, when I hear the word bio, I think I like something bad. I know that sounds really weird, and then hacking's not necessarily. Yeah, exactly. And hacking's not exactly a term that's super positive either. Yeah. And it can almost sound scary. Now what I like is when you Google biohacking, one of the things that shows up in the knowledge panel is do-it-yourself biology. And I'm like, oh, when you actually kind of call it DIY biology, okay, cool. I'm going to see what different levers I can flip with my body, and absolutely just see if I can, make myself feel better. Or, I'm by no means going to endorse this. I don't know all the entire story, but I was at our mutual friend, Adam McChesney's Builders of Authority a couple of weeks ago in St. Louis. And there was this gentleman speaking about videography, and he had cured himself through cancer, stage 4 cancer, all naturally, right? And I literally saw the dude. He's doing great. He's awesome. That, in essence, would be an extreme form of biohacking, where you're like looking at the medical establishment and research and all of those things and saying, you know what? I'm going to bet on something else. And luckily, his bet worked out for him. He's not the only one I know, by the way. I know somebody else who beat cancer with cannabis. So yeah, man, there's extreme cases. There's extreme cases for sure.
I heard somebody go as far as to say that no nutritionist can actually tell you what the perfect meal for you is. They can't unless they have every freaking information about all your data, your bacteria, gut biome,
all of it,
everything. They need to know how everything is impacting the system to tell you exactly how. And that's probably going to be possible in the future with AI and all these gadgets that when the little chip is inside. Like the chip's going to be the chip is in the body telling us exactly like, hey, you need a little bit of magnesium and a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I recommend you eat this and that. I mean, it's going to get to that level of self-regulate, like I don't know what it would be called, but doing yourself biology.
It's personalized. We're almost there, dude. I mean, it's like when we look at Viome, I did a stool, blood, and saliva sample. I sent them off, and then they gave me their whole thing is they want you to buy precision supplements, right?
Of course.
That are geared towards exactly what you lack. And so, for example, my precision probiotic formula has 15 ingredients in my formula, quote unquote, my formula, right? We're kind of there where you can start to do that with supplementation. It'll be really, really cool when you can get there with not just supplementation, but just overall nutrition. So, for example, I got a list of, I learned through this process that lettuce is like on the no-fly list for me. Like, I shouldn't be eating lettuce of all things. My body doesn't agree with it. I was super thankful to figure out that there's a lot of other things. Alfalfa sprouts are off the list. Darn it.
Hold the lettuce.
The alfalfa sprouts. But what's kind of funny is like
picture today, bro. You did send that picture.
You know what? It's spinach I can't eat. Not that. My list is actually very short, and it's stuff that I don't like, which is awesome. But cane sugar's on there.
But you saw a picture you sent today of yourself. Dude,
I looked bloated. Like, who was that guy?
Yeah, that wasn't even fat. That was inflamed.
That was swollen.
Every cell in your body was retaining water, was about to explode. All your cheek cells.
I was on testosterone back then too, like a hormone replacement therapy. I'm so glad I got off that crap. I mean, that's another thing that's like, biohacking is HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is readily available now. Like, there's just so many different things that are readily available right now that people are, and I hate to use the word experimenting with, but really, it's your own body. You can do what you want to it. A lot of people are experimenting with it. Yeah.
But then we have breath to hack our state with. We have attention, we have body, we have nutrition. Then we have stress, we have ice baths, we have all these practices. These are all biohacking instruments to optimize your system. And we got to understand the basic principles of them so that we can be more optimal and show up as our best selves for ourselves and for others, and keep it balanced. Like, don't take it to an extreme. I mean, so far you have the Whoop, the watch, the saliva scan, you are implementing a lot of this biohacking perspective in your life. So
I'm going to take it a step further. One of our listeners, Dale Oldham, has taken it to yet another level. So when I go to my dad's house, he has, so like all his food is labeled with various things that he's identified, like how many servings he can have a day or whatever. He basically eats like very similar type of diet, but then he also has a master spreadsheet that he logs all this stuff in so that he can see patterns and deviations and whatnot. And I'm like, holy smokes, next level. There's a fantastic book, by the way, out there that is called, what's it called? Outlive? Is that it? Outlive. The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia. That's a pretty good book that has, it's about personalized strategies for, nutrition, exercise, sleep, emotional well-being. It's super thick, by the way. Have you seen that book?
I think somebody referred it to me. I don't know, maybe it was you.
It's so thick. It's really, really good though. It's probably like the opposite of how you teach, which is you give people what they need so that they can implement it and not be overwhelmed. Whereas this book is more like a resource that you're going to probably reference back and forth throughout maybe a lifetime of
for an OCD, somebody with OCD biohacking.
Yeah, it'd probably freak them out because then all of a sudden they'd have so many different levels to flip.
If you look at the blue zones of people that have outlived, like they lived a long time, it's like it also comes down to inputs like good relationships, like purpose. Like there's psychological things that overrun. Like again, I know people that are so obsessive about this, they can't even have a relationship because the person that they're with doesn't buy into all this and they're trying to control the person. And they're like, why can't I find somebody that eats healthy, is into all this? I'm like, shit, you're going to die alone.
You're going to scare away every mate that would ever want to be with you or a friend.
So you got to relax a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
I read one quote one time that I loved. We all came into this world to poison ourselves. We just do it in different ways. So pick your poison.
It's facts. Pick your poison. I'd like to pick a poison that does allow me to live a long and healthy life. So I think that
is longevity important to you? Is longevity important to you?
Longevity is important to me with a caveat. My dad and I talk about this a lot. It's like, all right, as long as I still have a certain degree of independence. So like if I've got to have somebody wipe my butt or something,
we're done? Sorry,
I don't really. Yeah, we're done. So somewhere between somebody wiping my ass and me wiping my own ass, there's a no-go zone for me where longevity doesn't matter. And more than that, I mean, it's not just your basics. It's because my wife said she'd wipe my ass for better or for worse. When we got married, she went in front of our friends and said that she'd do that. So I'd be okay with that. It's somewhere else, though. It probably has to do with the mental aspect. Like if I can't communicate with others, if not, I don't know, man. At some point where the quality of life isn't there.
If you're drooling and shitting on yourself,
doesn't matter to me anymore.
That's it.
Yeah.
If you're drooling and shitting on yourself,
I don't know what that. I don't know what that point is, right? I do have like a legal definition in my trust with my wife. Like we both have advanced directives that actually say like different things that we do or don't want to happen. But I don't know. What's your perspective? Is longevity important to you?
Quality of life is very important. This whole die empty.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's no control attached to living a long life.
Yep.
I mean, you look at people. There's this couple driving down the road, and they both died. And that's kind of. I recognize that it can happen in any moment, so I don't want to obsess with a long, like living a long time and like really stressing today about living a long time, a very free life. I like this. Somebody's like, I thought I was going to be dead by now. I just don't die, so I'm just living. And he's living an amazing life.
These are bonus rounds, right?
But I just don't die. Like, I just keep on going. I love that. My life is like, I just don't die. I just keep on living, and I keep on living, and I keep on living, and it's beautiful and amazing. And it's cherry on top, and dying empty every day. I just want to die empty every day. I want to live a life worth dying every day. Because we don't know when.
I think I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you on that. It's like longevity is important as long as there's a purpose to it. Just living a long life to live a long life, to me, yeah. But let's say, hey, I've got a lot of really cool things happening with my kids, or maybe grandkids or great grandkids. Hell yeah. Or maybe there's something cool going on with myself. In my later years. I don't know.
Yeah. But I do want to get to the point. I want to get to the point where my grandma got to. Like, my grandma, you would ask my grandma, hey, how you doing, grandma? And she's like, praying that the Lord takes me today.
Really? She was just kind of done?
Well, she was done, but she was good, but she was done. It wasn't like, she was good.
She did it. She was like, hey, I did it. Yeah, I lived a full, rich life. We're good.
Like, I'm good.
Yeah. Feel good. Feel grateful.
Yeah, she was, she was just, I'm done. Like, I want to be done. Like, I don't know.
Maybe I'll
change my opinion on the path. But there you go, man.
Probably will. There you go.
That's the biohacking.
I love it, and I think this is good. I like it. I'm glad that we talked about this, because I don't know we've ever used the word biohacking on the show. I don't think we have. I don't think we've mentioned it that way yet. And I don't think about the VUCA Fit method as being biohacking, but there's elements. So that's it.
There you go.
A wrap.
That's a wrap.
There we go. That's it. We're done. That's the pod. Just two quick asks. Number one, if you haven't left a review and you're listening and you still like what we're doing, then, please let us know. Leave a review. And number two, smash the subscribe button, because if you don't smash the subscribe button, you don't know what's happening with the show. Until next week, I'm Kevin. He's Jose. We're just two dudes living life, and we hope that you have a phenomenal week. Be well.